So we're here on the inside of the home, and we're gathered here in the kitchen. You know, one thing that I didn't mention before is that Brad and I inspect together, and as you can see even from what we've done so far on the outside, is that one thing that I may be looking in one direction and kind of checking out one thing, he's looking at another. A lot of times we'll pick up on something that the other might overlook. So it really helps to have both of us looking at every situation throughout the inspection. So we kind of have a system. We come in, we start the dishwasher, then we go back out and work the outside, then we come into the kitchen and we finish the inspection. So we not only are we here to inspect, but we're here to operate. So we will operate the faucet. Oh, interesting. A little unusual there. Had a little airlock in the system.
Is the cold side working?
Yeah, the cold side is, whoa! We ran into that before. Interesting.
So we've noticed that the faucet here is not operating as it should. At this point, we kind of turn to the next step of inspection, and that is when we direct it to the next professional. So this would be something we'd refer over to a licensed plumbing contractor to further evaluate the valves and the faucet here, to kind of dig into what's going on, why it's not working, and to complete any necessary repairs so that it does operate properly.
So we'll be checking to see that the hot water is functioning correctly and the cold water, the auxiliary spray, and then we look under the sink to see if there are any leaks underneath the sink. We'll be looking at see what type of drain line there is and what type of supply line there is. And we see here that there is a disposal, so we'll operate the disposal. And one other thing that we'll be looking for under the sink is the drain for the dishwasher actually comes down and around and actually hooks into the disposal. And we'll want to know that the dishwasher drain line actually has what we call a high loop. And the importance of that is that actually wastewater, if it's not higher than where it goes into the disposal, it can actually get wastewater that goes back into the line and potentially gets into the dishwasher, and that can cause cross-contamination in that situation. So we'll be looking to see if the drain line, and it doesn't appear to have a high loop. It actually comes in across the bottom and then just comes up into the drain. So we'll be checking the receptacles. You see here that appears to be wired correctly. If this were a newer home, we'd be checking for GFCI protection, and it is not protected. It's an older home. GFCI is not required in an older home. We do recommend an upgrade. So we'll operate the window. The other thing that we'll be doing, we'll be looking at the cabinets to make sure that they operate correctly, that the doors actually function, the drawers function, and that they're securely attached to the wall.
So here we've run into something that's always fun in an older home, and illustrates a point that a lot of people say they don't make things like they used to. This is a clear example. These appliances appear to be original to the house. So these appliances are over 40 years old. We have a stove here. And what's pretty funny is I'm guessing that when we turn this thing on to operate it, here we'll turn it over to bake, it is gonna work. It might not be ideal and it might not be what you'd want in your house, but these old appliances are simply built very stout and tend to last a very long time. In addition to operating the oven, we're gonna be checking the cooktop. We basically turn all the burners on here, and we're looking to find out, are they going to operate and get hot? With this electric burner, we really just want to see them kind of turn red and get pretty hot. It's not required of an inspection. We don't test for specific temperature. We really don't know what the manufacturer would have recommended or how hot exactly the burner should get to. We just want to see that it is functioning as intended. On these old burners, we want to make sure these things are kind of secure in here. Sometimes when they get mistreated over time, these electric coils fall through, and that can be a bit of a problem. We also, while this is heating up, we'll go ahead and check. We want to make sure that the light and the surface light works. Seems like a small thing. You can see it's not going to work here for me. Oh, there it is. So it kind of works. The bulbs that go in these surface lights are pretty expensive in the terms of electrical bulbs, so it's something that you'd actually want to know about. The other thing we're going to check is the vent fan. Now in this house, this is a recirculating fan, so it's not taking air to the outside, but we just want to make sure that everything is in operating condition. We're also going to take a wet paper towel and put it in the microwave and turn the microwave on for 15 seconds and make sure that that's getting hot, and the microwave is functioning as well. At this point, this is getting real hot. I can see all these burners are working real well, so we'll just cut those right back off. And even though this also looks to be, it could be original to the house, it's still in working order. So some of these old appliances are pretty amazing how durable they really were. So you can see this house doesn't have a refrigerator, but it's worth mentioning what's included in an inspection and what's not. So we're going to operate any of the permanently installed appliances, a stove, an oven, a dishwasher. Those things are permanently installed in the house, and more than likely the seller's not going to rip them out and take them with them. As far as a home inspection, the refrigerator, its condition, its age, it's how it's operating is just not part of a home inspection. It's not something your home inspector is going to check. That also rings true for your washer and dryer. We're going to look for damage around it because there's water, there's venting going on around it. We want to make sure your dryer is vented to the outside. We'll make sure that the washing machine plumbing hookup is not damaged or leaking or hurting the house, but the appliances themselves are not permanent pieces of the house, so we won't be checking them in a home inspection.
So this house has a masonry fireplace, and what we'll be looking for here, first of all, we look around where the brick actually meets the ceiling, and you can see here that there are actually repairs to the ceiling. There's a crack over here that looks like a little bit of moisture stains in this area, and it actually looks like moisture has actually been coming down the face of the fireplace here all the way down. And so we'll be looking for, this is a clue that we'll be looking for evidence of moisture up above in the attic, and as well as down below if it actually has reached to the floor system around this or below this fireplace. So if we look at the firebox, we're looking here to see that the brick is in good shape, that there are no cracks between the brick. What can happen if this is damaged or there's cracks between the brick? Actually, this fire brick is actually designed to be a protection between the fire and the framing that's behind the fireplace. So here we can see that there's actually the damper has a lot of creosote on it. So this fireplace really needs to be cleaned. We'll refer that to a chimney specialist or a chimney sweep for cleaning. And in that process, I mean, we can't actually see the flue or the flue liner, and so that's something that a chimney specialist would be able to do.
So this is a kind of a fun tool that we like to add to our toolbox, if you will. And everything we do, it just aids the inspector. This is a visual inspection. Our primary tool is our eyes, but we do use things like moisture meters and different types of thermometers, humidistats, things like that. And this is a fun tool. This is an infrared camera or a thermography camera. And it's kind of fun. This house has an unusual heating system that was something people used, I believe, between the 60s and 70s. It's completely inefficient, and that is electrical coils in the ceiling. So you can actually take a look with me here real quick, and we'll actually look up at what these electrical coils look like. And the only thing I'm checking for is, are they still functioning? Is there areas where they're out? Are we seeing anything unusual? Another thing that infrared cameras can be used for is to look at HVAC registers, are they blowing hot? Are they not working? And around electrical devices to see if they're overheating. That can be a serious safety issue as well. But this really is just a tool. Some inspectors like to sell these things as kind of a magic device that can find moisture problems, and while they can aid us in that, it's just one tool that we use to take a closer look. So to finish out this flooring inspection, we'll be going through all the rooms, bedrooms. We'll operate doors to make sure they're operating correctly, windows, test receptacles, test lights, going through all those processes in each room.
So we're in one of the bedrooms here, and notice in the ceiling that there is a crack in the ceiling. It looks like there's some repairs to the ceiling over here. So again, this is actually a clue that to be looking for any potential moisture intrusion from above in this area. So here, between the bedroom and the bath, there's actually a diagonal crack above the door. It's usually an indication that there's been some settling, and we'll look underneath this area here for support. Is there any reason to believe that there's inadequate support? And then again, this is not necessarily something that we can give the implications to, and we'll refer that to a structural engineer. So here in the bathroom, there's several things that we do. We operate the light. If there is a ceiling fan, and there is not in this situation, we'd operate the ceiling fan. There's a window, so this bathroom has to have ventilation. So they're using the window here for ventilation, so we'll operate the window as well. We'll flush the toilet. We'll look in the tank to make sure that there are no cracks or defects there, make sure that it flushes correctly. And then with the sink, we want to operate the sink to ensure that, and I don't know whether you picked that up or not, but when it first came on, there was actually a kind of a brown tint in the water. So this house probably has some type of galvanized supply lines. You're not seeing it cleared out pretty quick, but we'll want to make sure that we get adequate hot water, and then we'll operate it in the cold side. And we're seeing here that water is actually coming out around the valve, so we'll want to note that and refer that to a plumbing contractor. We'll operate the drain to make sure that the drain holds water as it's supposed to. And we see that it does. We'll release that, and then we'll look underneath to see that is there a leak in the drain system or in the supply. And we see that it seems to be in good shape. Now, this has a metal trap, and you can see that the metal is actually beginning to corrode here, so that actually should be replaced before it develops a leak. So one other thing that we'll want to do here is we actually record all the materials used in the plumbing drain system as well as the supply side. But here we have a metal trap, a chrome metal trap, but I'm also seeing a galvanized piece of pipe here. So we'll have to note that. We'll probably see more of that when we get to the basement. One thing I see here in the supply side, that there's no shutoff below the sink, and that's important to, if you ever wanted to change this sink out, you'd have to turn the water off to the house instead of just being able to turn it off at the valve here. We've got some corrosion here at this point too, so we'll note that in the report. So what we do, we actually I'm pushing against the toilet here with my knee to see that it is secure to the floor. It's real important that the toilet is secured, because if it moves around, there's actually a wax seal, a part of the connection between the toilet and the drain line below. And if it moves, it can break that wax seal and cause a leak. So if we'll actually be looking closely at this area below this from the basement to ensure that we don't have a previous or a prior leak in that area. Very common to see that. Another thing that we'll do, we'll actually lift the tank lid and we'll look inside to see if there's appears to be any cracks in the tank, and we will operate the toilet
to ensure that it functions correctly. So,
all right, so something we see here is common in older houses, and that is a two-pronged receptacle. So you see, unlike a modern receptacle, there's not a third grounding slot here. I think a question that comes up for a lot of people is this okay, and can this still be used? Do they need to be upgraded? The answer is no, they don't have to be upgraded. Now, probably not a good idea to put in appliances like TVs and stuff. The ground is an equipment ground that helps protect what you've plugged in. But as far as functionality, there is a full electrical connection here. There's the hot and then the return back that grounds at the neutral. What we recommend and what the National Electric Code recommends is that if you're going to have a two-wire, two-prong circuit, is that you protect it with a GFCI. That way you get the same effect as having a full three-wire, because there's really no point in upgrading receptacles to a three-prong if you only have two wires going to them without the GFCI.
so here we have a tub in the hall bath, and we're going to operate the hot side to ensure that we have hot water. We'll be testing that. We're going to operate the cold to ensure that the cold water side is working. And then we're going to operate the shower. So this is the center valve is the shower valve, and we're going to be seeing that we have what we call functional flow here. You can see that it's adequate, but we want to know that when we turn on an additional fixture, does it actually affect the flow of the water here in the shower? So another thing that we see is very common is to see a leak around the connection here. Here this is in good shape. It's not leaking, so that's good. It actually has a spout, a spray, or a handheld I should say, and we want to see if that works. And it does. So everything seems to be working good here at this tub and shower. So right away here with this set of stairs, we have an issue. See how the hinges on the side and the springs have actually bent the hinges and they're curled in. So that affects the operation. When I lift this back up to close it, it's actually going to get hung up in these bent hinges. So that's an issue. We see a nail backing out over on the side of the tread here. They put a block underneath this one. So this set of stairs, you see it kind of pulling apart at this location. This set of stairs is a safety issue and probably should be replaced. So the hinge at this point, you can see that it doesn't seat completely here, which means that the ladder has been left too long. This should actually be cut off at this point so that it actually extends in a linear fashion here so that it actually will use this heel here to support the weight as I climb up it. So again, that could be because the hinges are bent and it actually is going a little bit further than it should. So it's a safety issue. The pull-down stairs can be very dangerous if they don't function as they should. Alrighty, we're here in the attic, and I'll just kind of cover some of the things that we look for. The first thing that we want to actually look at what type of materials are used in the attic. And we see here that this is a conventional framing. It actually has plywood sheathing. This is a plumbing vent here to the left, and it actually goes through the roof. So I'm going to be looking where that penetrates the roof surface, see if there's any signs of moisture stains in that area. And then behind me here we have a chimney, or the brick chimney that goes through, and that's a penetration point in the roof. And there are always, anytime that there's penetration points, it's a good chance to find moisture damage in those areas. And here at this chimney, not surprising, we saw moisture stains on the ceiling below, and there are actually moisture stains on the wood framing. It's actually dark stains around the perimeter. And we'll be looking closely at that to determine if the wood is soft or decayed, or if we can make that determination. We'll also be looking at the insulation to determine what type of insulation it is, and is it a good coverage? The thickness of the insulation, is it doing the job that it's supposed to? And we'll be looking at any electrical that might be here in the attic. I see a little bit back here. We want to know that those are properly protected. We'll be looking at the vents, the gable vents. We want to see what all type of venting there is. Is there soffit venting? Is there ridge vent and gable vents? And we'll want to look in those gable vents. Sometimes we see bats in the gable vents, and we'll want to know that that is not the case in this situation. I do see some nesting at the vent back over in the corner here that we'll want to take note of. The screen has been pulled back and looks like maybe a bird or something is nesting there. So the other thing that we see is that there's quite a bit of people have stored some items up here in the attic, and that really affects if they've compacted the insulation, they have affected the ability of the insulation to do its job. So that's always something we want to look at. So